Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, March 5th, 9:33 a.m., and welcome to the Planning, Energy and Environmental Quality Committee meeting. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and first find out, do we have any public comments, Taylor?
Nope.
Okay. And do I take attendance of our members here?
You want to?
I don't know if that's standard or? Nope. No? Okay. All right. So I wonder if there are any changes to the agenda. Okay. No changes to the agenda. I'm looking for somebody to move the minutes for approval. Thank you. Judith moves, and a second from Rachel. Thanks. Are there any corrections, changes to the minutes? Oh, great. Thank you, Taylor, for getting them so well done. All right, so
You've got to vote.
Oh, we've got to vote. Sorry about that. We got to vote. All in favor of approving the minutes? Here we go.
Thank you.
Yep. And now we do have some advisory board appointments that I will.
And Adam.
Iris?
Sorry, just counting who we're missing. And
Yeah, we're missing Adam, and Christy is excused.
okay.
So we have some advisory board appointments that I will read off. Do we need votes on these?
Yes, you need a mover,
Okay.
a seconder.
All right. Do I read them first and then ask for a mover?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So advisory board appointments. First, we have appointments to the Climate and Sustainable Energy, or the CASE Advisory Board. Candace Reeves would be an at-large representative whose term expires December 31st, 2026. John King, an at-large representative whose term expires December 31st, 2028. Janet Smith, an at-large resident whose term expires December 31st, 2028. And Susan Holland, an at-large member whose term would expire December 31st, 2028. In addition, we have an appointment to the Tompkins County Planning Advisory Board, William or Kurt Foreman, who is the Economic Development Representative, and their term expires December 31st, 2026. And the Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board has two appointments as well. Abigail Connor from Tompkins County Department of Planning and Sustainability, and their term expires upon resignation from the position. And Graham Savio, who's the Cooperative Extension Representative, and likewise their term expires upon resignation from the petition. Can I get somebody to move these appointments? Iris, and a second. Judith, thanks. All right, all in favor? Any? Great, okay, thanks. All right, so as far as a chair's report, there's a couple of things I wanted to report before we start discussion of a resolution. And one thing is just to mention that this past week I gave a presentation to the Office for the Aging's Board on why utility rates have gone up so much. So that was just earlier this week. And the other, I can talk a little bit about the NYSEG rate case is winding down. So there will be, or the evidentiary hearing is winding down, and there will be some subsequent steps of filing briefs as to what happened during the evidentiary hearing, and a chance to weigh in on the recommendation from the administrative law judges. The last thing that I want to mention, and Kate, it's nice to see you here this morning, Kate Darfler, who chairs the Environmental Management Council, because I had an interesting conversation with Anna Kellis this past week, and she said that the information that we had been given about spreading of biosolids and the concern that Ag and Markets was going to interfere, She said that she hasn't been seeing that, and she's worked with every county that's doing that. So we'll check back with our legal counsel on that and see if maybe there's a way to move that forward. And if so, that would be really exciting to be able to get that done. Okay, so also as part of the chair's report is a resolution that I drafted related to energy affordability. And it was following on the heels of our conversation with NYSEG at the last legislature meeting. And so if we could turn to that now, it's on packet page 9. And, well, it extends a bit. It's a little bit long. So it's from 9 through 11. And I'd like to start by asking somebody to move this resolution. Great, thanks, Iris. And is there a second? Rachel, thanks. And Adam Vinson just arrived. So welcome, Adam. Adam, we're just on packet page 9 and about to jump into discuss the resolution on energy affordability. So this is a resolution that I had drafted to give you a little bit of a framework for understanding why we actually have two resolutions that deal with state level legislation. And to just give a little bit of background about why this is happening now is that in January 1st, the governor gives a State of the State address, and following that, the governor issues what's called the State Book, and it's a booklet that describes the changes that she wants to see in the budget, and after that, there's some numbers attached to the budget reforms that she wants. And then during the month of February, the Assembly and Senate each start working on what are called their one-house budget bills. And it's sort of a response to what the governor has proposed. And then during the month of March is when the governor, the Assembly, and the Senate all work to negotiate what actually is going to be in the state's budget for next year. And the deadline for that is April 1st is when supposedly we get a budget issued. Under Governor Hochul for the past few years, it hasn't come in at April 1st. The negotiations have continued into April. And then following, whenever the budget is done, there's a race to the finish to get other legislation that doesn't have budget implications passed by, again, early June 1st theoretically, but it's never quite June 1st. And so these resolutions are time sensitive for us to bring forward this month to the full legislature so that we can send them to Albany expressing our opinions of what we want to see them do on both, this resolution addresses the energy affordability things, and the other resolution addresses environmental aspects of our energy use. And so both of them are important to get to the governor and legislature during the month of March. So with that as background, I'll then step in to just talk a little bit about the resolution that I've proposed, which addresses what we know of to be very, very difficult financial times for people and very high utility rates. And they're not just happening here in Tompkins County. They're not just happening with NYSEG. They're happening all across the state, and all told, there's almost $2 billion of arrears from people who are more than 60 days behind on their utility bills. So thankfully, this is an issue that has caught the governor's attention as well as many legislators. And there are a lot of different pieces of legislation that have been proposed to try and bring utility rates under control a bit more. And those are the bills that I have identified in the resolved section. I do work on these issues quite a bit, and so I'm pretty familiar with these bills, but I also work with the leading organization in the state that works on energy affordability. Some of you may have heard of them, the Public Utility Law Project. And so these bills are also being supported by the Public Utility Law Project. I didn't just, pull a rabbit out of my hat and make up bill numbers. These are the ones that they're standing behind as well. And so I'll just read those out so that people know what we're looking at, and then I'll open this to discussion. So one bill is Senate Bill 1896 with companion bill in the Assembly 1028 that puts the Public Service Commission in charge of determining the ratio of and return on equity provided to a utility using a standardized general financing method. This is super important. Tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars at stake through this one resolution. Right now, the utilities earn their profit on something called return on equity. And it's also related to, so the equity is their investments in infrastructure. It's not investments in trimming trees and other operations and maintenance or personnel. It's just on their infrastructure investments. In addition to that, there's something that gets usually right now negotiated is the debt to equity ratio. How much of the infrastructure are they permitted to borrow for, and how much comes out of their own equity? And the ratio is somewhere usually around 45 to 55. But what those numbers actually come down to, and then the profit margin that they're allowed can end up costing hundreds of millions of dollars per rate case. And it's really important that this, and I should add that most of the time, these numbers get negotiated behind closed doors in a settlement proceeding where nobody knows what's been discussed and how the compromise was arrived at. And it's just not the way to do it. Many other states use a standardized general financing method. The Public Service Commission, their staff, the Department of Public Service staff is familiar with using that methodology, and this bill would require that be done. So that's the first bill. The next bill, 8150, and Assembly 8150 and Senate Bill 7693 would require electric and gas utilities to return to ratepayers any revenue they collect above their authorized return on equity. So there are times where they actually are earning higher returns than what they've been permitted, and this requires them to give that back to us and not pocket it. The next bill, Assembly 7610 and Senate Bill 1721A, prevents service disconnections and late fee accrual when a utility is under investigation, like by the Public Service Commission, as NYSEG is right now. They're under two different investigations, one for their billing issues and another for their overall management and administration. Their audit had 124, I think, different problems found. So they're being investigated, and that they shouldn't be allowed to disconnect people or charge late fees while they're being investigated. The next bill, Assembly 168A, requires utilities to automatically provide low-income customers with affordable deferred payment agreements rather than forcing them to negotiate with the company to come up with a deferred payment agreement when they're not able to pay their full bill at once. And sort of partner to that is Assembly 4105A, which would codify into statute the existing minimum deferred payment agreement standard that's currently found in New York rules, so that the baseline can't be weakened through administrative changes. And the last one that I recommend that we support is Assembly Bill 8712 with Senate number 8118, which prevents electric and gas utilities from terminating service in multiple dwellings when the landlord or owner is behind. Because right now, if the landlord isn't paying the bill, the tenants can get their utilities shut off. And instead, this would require it to go to a court process to be determined what's happening with the landlord and why they're not paying, and to put a lien on the landlord if need be, but not shutting tenants off who did nothing wrong. So those are the pieces of legislation that I'm recommending that we support. And there's a lot of whereas stuff. And so with that introduction, I now open this to discussion. Yeah, John, and then Rachel.
The only point I'd like to clarify, during the presentation that NYSEG did here, they mentioned that if customers paid $10 at least on their current bill, and afterwards I spoke with one of the people about this, they would not turn off their utilities. So it's like a New York State law that as long as somebody pays at least $10, they don't get shut off. And is that seem correct to you? I mean, they may have to eventually pay their bill, but
it's partially correct. So when you call and ask for a deferred payment on your bill, let's say it's $500,
right,
and you want a deferred payment. So they say, okay, you can pay that off $10 at a time. But next month's bill comes in, you got to pay next month's bill plus $10 extra.
Do they assess penalties at, like a credit card company would charge interest or whatever on the unpaid part of the bill?
That's an interesting question that I don't know the answer to, John. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm sure many of us have had the experience this past winter. You get a whopping bill in January and you go, oh my God, I can't pay this. So let's say you went on a deferred payment plan, and then comes your February bill and it's even higher than January's was, right?
Sure.
And so you couldn't pay last month's, and now you can't pay this month's, which has, the February plus the $10 that you're now deferring from the January bill. So it makes it very, very, very difficult.
Of course.
Any other discussion? Rachel?
I appreciate all of the work that went into this. I know it took a while to put it all together and collect all the information about bills and everything. I'm hoping that I would like to make a motion to table it and give us time to edit it collectively and then submit an edited version for the next meeting.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about what aspects you want to see edited, or, maybe we can divide it up and talk about the bills that I'm encouraging us to support, and whether you're anticipating, maybe we should just first talk about the bills we're anticipating supporting and whether there's general support for that, and then we can talk about whether other parts need editing. So let me just first clarify from you what you think you'd like to see edited.
I do support the bills that you listed. I think that there's another bill that's in the first resolved that maybe should be moved to the second resolved because it is
Oh, did I miss one?
a bill.
Okay. When I was reading this, I missed the resolve.
The create an Office of Energy and Equity.
Oh, yes.
So
Thank you.
and I wasn't, so that should be probably moved down to the second resolved. And
Irene,
then-
without interrupting, I would like to confirm, is that a formal motion to table?
I mean, it was, and then, I guess, so yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And so we'll come, is that okay to come back to that? Or do we need to address it right away?
It would change the, if you can discuss it or not, and it also would change if it would go to the next legislature meeting.
Sorry, say that again? It would change
It will
what?
not go to the next legislature meeting if it's tabled.
Understood. Yeah, I think the proper way to do it would be to withdraw it rather than table. So that was part of what I was going to
Okay.
bring up, but I also want to get clarification first on what chunks are, being asked to review and revise.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or do I need to
Should I pull my
respond to
motion
the
to table?
idea
Okay.
about the motion first?
I'm going to pull my motion to table it so we can discuss it.
Okay,
And then,
and then later
if
we'll
it
have
seems appropriate,
yeah.
I will make a motion to withdraw it.
withdraw. Yeah, and just to explain the difference between a table and a withdraw is that a table means that it would come back to this committee
Oh.
next month.
Okay.
Or, is that right? Or when we decide, whereas a withdraw then gives us the liberty to figure out when and how we want to bring it forward.
Okay, take a look at that. Okay,
So,
that was my mistake.
okay, so, no, it's okay. We're all learning here together. It's no problem. So yes, there was another resolve that I did not discuss, or another set of bills that I didn't discuss. And I apologize for that. The reason they're broken apart is that this first resolve relates to the budget, which is the thing that's actually, getting figured out this month. The others would be figured out in April and May. So the ones.
The remedies.
Yeah, the ones that I read off will be addressed in April and May. And the ones that I didn't read off that I forgot about, I looked at the second resolve and not the first. The first ones, as it says here, encourages the inclusion of the following remedies in the state's budget for this coming year. And that is to create an Office of Energy and Equity and an Energy Affordability Fund with $500 million of annual appropriation to protect the Home Energy Assistance Program and ensure all other energy affordability programs are funded adequately. Another is to authorize data matching between the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance and the Department of Taxation and Finance to make it easier to identify and disperse funds to households in need. And last, to codify the utility intervenor funding and provide at least $1 million annually to enable small municipalities, nonprofits, and community groups representing consumers to recover reasonable costs of participating in rate cases. So these all have budget implications and are being considered first in this upcoming month. I think we saw this past year with the events in Washington and the budget not passing and that home energy assistance program, the heating energy and assistance program was put on hold at a very critical time for people. And it really highlighted the need for us to have a robust plan in place here to address the affordability needs for people who are seemingly subject to the whims of what's happening in Washington right now. The authorized data matching between the Office of Temporary Disability and Assistance and Department of Taxation and Finance, in the last session, they authorized that these programs should work directly to when they have people who are eligible for their programs, that they should automatically be eligible for HEAP. And there was agreement that that should happen, but nobody has made all their computer systems talk with each other. One more, Judith, and then I'll get to you. And then the last is to codify the utility intervenor funding. And what that does is right now, as you probably heard, our county is involved in the rate case. There are any number of other nonprofits that get involved in rate cases to try and fight on behalf of consumers and the environment and various constituents. It's a very, very difficult, lengthy process, and going up against the utility and all of their lawyers makes it really a very uneven playing field, and intervenor funds would be funding to support these groups to be able to access legal support and experts to challenge the information that's being put forward by the utility. So that's the purpose of those bills. Judith, thank you for waiting, and then Adam.
Thanks, Irene. I think we all heard the discussion in our last meeting with NYSEG that we all care deeply about this issue, and I personally would like to have a resolution on this topic be passed. As it stands, it's already 10 o'clock, right? We started this meeting at 9:30, and I feel like if we're going to continue to discuss this bill, or this resolution, it's going to take another hour at a minimum, including line edits. But I understand that there is a time-sensitive issue here, right? We need to get it passed promptly in order to fit into the state level deadlines. For that reason, I think, for me, what would make the most sense is for you to withdraw the resolution and then form a group of, not necessarily a formal working group of maybe 3 people, which is less than quorum of this committee, to do those line edits and make sure that this aligns with both what we need and perhaps run it by our planning department, and then bring it straight to the legislature, the next legislature meeting, without having been passed through this committee as a member-filed resolution. And at that point, it will have those edits made, and we will not spend, the next hour on it right here so that we can actually get through the rest of the agenda. That's not really a formal request because you're the one who would have to withdraw it. But my suggestion would be that we actually don't have any more discussion of this resolution at this moment, but just move it to that group, whoever is on the group, maybe Rachel, hey Rachel, to make edits so that we can all have something we're really happy with.
And again, I'm good with that, and I'm happy to advance a motion to withdraw, not table, which I think Rachel now understands. That said, I think it would help to have clarity as to what things are getting edited and whether the interest is in editing the whereas sections, changing the bills that are being recommended, and how we're going to approach that.
So as an example, like in the first whereas, it talks about this one increase, but that's over 1 year. In the second whereas, it's over 3 years. I think it's important to clarify those things are different. There's a lot of whereas that I would like to see something shorter that is a little more punchy so that people actually get to the end of it, because I think it's hard to send something this long to anybody. So those are the sorts of edits I'm looking for, and it sounds like Rachel has some more substantive edits.
So it's predominantly in the whereas sections and not in the resolved sections?
I haven't done my research on the resolved sections because this is a lot to even look at what's in here, let alone what else might be in here. So I would like for whoever does this to, just make sure that those are exactly what we want.
Okay.
Procedurally, if we are going to consider that what Judith just spoke regarding, it would be Iris, the mover, and Rachel, the seconder, who would withdraw their motions. And then Irene, as chair, you can withdraw the resolution so long as there are no objections.
Okay. And is it okay for me to get clarification from everybody? Adam had his hand raised. Just so that we all know that when we're withdrawing and bringing it back for reworking, that it's clear what aspects we're reworking?
Yep, you can continue discussing until they choose to withdraw.
Okay. All right, so we had Adam and then Rachel.
On that topic, I actually have a proposed line item change for the whereases.
Okay, so Adam, I think we're not going to entertain, as has been pointed out, that there's maybe a lot of people who want to change the whereas clauses, and that's what we're looking to withdraw. So I'm trying to get clarity as to whether there are changes to the resolved as well. And from what I heard from Judith, Judith has some possible concerns about things that she just hasn't had time to research yet.
I have no proposed changes for the results.
Okay.
So.
Any other, Rachel, you were up next.
I didn't have any edits to the results. There weren't ones that I had wanted to add or subtract, other than moving the one that I mentioned that should be with the other bills to the
Yes,
second resolved.
Yeah, I would suggest that it doesn't go there because the ones that are indicated being about the budget are about the budget.
Okay.
And the second resolved is not about the budget.
Okay. But all the other edits I had were about the whereas statements, and some of them were just edits for clarity or just mistakes or extra words that were not needed. And so
Okay.
those
Okay.
were the types of things, or
Okay.
things that were not clear or didn't match up.
Okay, and Katie?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that if this goes to be a staff-supported committee to make revisions to this resolution, it is a change in how we normally do this. When it's a member-filed resolution, it's generally the legislature and legislators that figure that out. We're, of course, happy to help however we can, but you do need to understand their work program implications if we divert staff to researching all of these bills.
Thanks, Katie. And I'll just add that if we do withdraw, and again, I'm open to that. You're not going to hear me object to that idea. But if we do, when we bring it back in March, a couple of things. It will need to be back in final version by, I think it's March 10th, to get it, you know, to Katrina so that she can format it and put it on the legislative agenda, which gets issued a week before the legislature meeting. Also, I forget what my also was. So anyhow, we would need to do that, and you know, and then I'll ask for who wants to work on the editing committee. Iris, I saw that you had.
I just wanted to clarify when the votes are being taken at the state level on these bills, that basically when we need to get this, if we were to support it, when it would need to
Yeah,
support it.
it needs to be in March, and so it would go to our March legislative meeting.
So we don't have time to have another peak meeting to discuss it, is my question.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
right.
for
And
Katie-
let me just, one other, I remember what my other piece was, is that if or when we withdraw this and then bring it back for the legislature meeting, it would be introduced as a member-filed resolution, not as a resolution under peak, because peak is not, you know, seems like we're not in a place to vote on it today, which is okay. But I just wanted to let you know procedurally what happens. Norma?
I just wanted, so you all have access to the ability to share a file. You might find that to be a useful tool in this case, because you could just use the tools that the county has given you to share this file, and then you can all make edits to one document, be able to see what the changes are, be able to make comments, and that might be an efficient way to get this kind of back on the table.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thanks,
If you need
Norma.
help, let us know.
Yeah, we on previous resolutions that we worked as a team on, we did it in Google Docs, but now that we're officially on board with the county, we can try and figure out SharePoint and how to do it that way. Thanks.
I just wanted to clarify what Katie was saying. What would implicate more staff time? What decision of ours would put more burden on staff?
Well, I just heard there was a proposal to form a subcommittee with staff support. And you should also note, Terry's on vacation for some of March, and he's just been asked to prepare a congressionally directed spending request for the district geothermal. So he does not have much bandwidth to research these bills.
So, I mean, there is a question to, I guess, the movers, whether this is friendly, right? Do we need to agree to withdraw it?
You would both withdraw your motions to have it be considered,
Right.
and then Irene would be able to withdraw it with no objections from the remaining committee members.
So then I would not want to withdraw it unless we could agree that we wouldn't implicate more staff time. Could
Sorry,
we work
that
on
we-
it ourselves, essentially?
That
without-
we'll work on it ourselves
Yeah,
and not ask for,
Not put a burden on the staff.
Yeah.
So that would be my request of the committee.
yep,
Okay.
okay. Is there any further discussion to the people? Oh,
So just to
I'm
confirm,
sorry.
it's not a formal working group that's been created. You guys are just going to offline work together to determine a resolution that will come forward to the 19th legislature meeting.
yeah, I think so. And who's interested in doing that? Rachel, Judith,
I don't have bandwidth.
Adam, okay. Wait, is it okay for all of us, or, any of us, or?
Only
do we-
three.
Only three, okay. Okay, well, I would like to be one of them, since this was something that I wrote originally, and here we have, Trina.
I spoke with Maury yesterday about the working groups, and because you're going to work on something specifically related to this committee, you should keep it to under a quorum of the committee.
okay, that's fine, okay.
Just
So
to
I-
clarify, can we then still, like, if we do the shared document, as Norma suggested, can that more than 3 of us look at that shared document?
Like you did, I think that was done previous, working on a document together for a member filed.
It was before our term started, I think, so it was not technically quorum.
I can check with Maury to
Okay.
make sure, but I think that was okay.
Okay.
But if you're going to meet and have a meeting, you need to keep it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, no,
Then
it
we're
would,
not going to do a working
yeah.
group.
okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, no working group, and it would not be.
Just volunteers who are interested in editing.
Yeah. we
Okay.
would- And it wouldn't be all at the same time. Like, someone would make an edit, someone else would look at it, an hour later. So I think it doesn't count as a meeting then.
Okay.
Keep everybody on hot water.
Okay. John, you looked like you were thinking about something, so I didn't want to,
No, it's just that comment.
okay,
The meeting, it's not a meeting. That was just a gesture.
okay. All right. So remind me, Taylor, who were the movers and seconders on this?
Iris and Rachel?
Okay, Iris moved it and Rachel seconded. So Iris, do you want to ask for a motion to withdraw?
I can just
You just
withdraw
say,
it.
I withdraw.
I withdraw I withdraw the resolution
Okay.
for consideration.
And I do as well.
Okay. And so with that, I'm certainly agreeable to working on ironing out the language to where we have full support. So thanks for the discussion on that.
And you're formally withdrawing the resolution now with no objections.
Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect.
What she said.
Thank you.
All right, Norma, you're up with the county administrator's report.
So, thank you. I really have no report for this committee, except that we have the departmental goals. I will point out that we had a shift in responsibility for this committee, so the recycling materials management has now moved over to facilities and infrastructure. So this was just a timing issue where they got put on your agenda as well. So I see that our team from planning is sitting at the microphones, and they would be happy to walk through those goals with you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we highlighted a few of our major goals for the year for you. The first one is updating our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We do that about every 5 years for the community as a whole, as well as county government operations. So we've been working on that. Terry Carroll has the analysis largely done. Now he's writing it up so that it makes sense to everybody, and the conclusions are easy to see, and what the implications are of that. The plan right now is to bring this to the committee in May for a presentation so
Great.
that you can see that. The next one is refreshing our energy roadmap. That was prepared in 2016, and our energy strategy, which the latest iteration of that was 2019. So what we're going to be doing is going back and initially looking at all of the data assumptions. For example, back when we did the energy roadmap, it was kind of viewed that solar farms were not going to be a thing around here, that it wasn't really a possibility. The technology has changed quite a bit, obviously, and it is a big component of our renewable energy now. So looking at those kind of figures and facts and then setting that up for more community conversations about what steps should be taken, kind of an energy strategy that we'll be developing. And we're hoping to bring you kind of that initial analysis of what data is still good, what ones are kind of we need to rethink based on new technology, new assumptions. We're hoping to bring that to you sometime in June would be the plan for that, to kind of move things along through the year so that we can get that updated.
And Katie, can I,
Yeah.
do you want questions?
Whenever you want.
Okay. The first round of energy roadmap and was a very heavy lift, and it involved any number of people from the community and from Cornell. How do you plan to structure the group? I'm afraid that we use the word working group, but how do you plan to work on this time around?
In both, actually, the energy roadmap and energy strategy were both kind of reasons for the case board to be formed. So the Climate and Sustainable Energy Board, your advisory board, was formed realizing that we kept forming these kind of ad hoc steering committees to advise on these projects. And so we'll use the case board as the steering committee on that.
Great.
And it will include community outreach and finding out what the priorities are in the community as well.
Terrific. Thanks.
Yep. Then moving into water, we have 2 grants right now with the DEC looking at creek corridor analysis and flood risk assessment. 6 Mile Creek is the older of the 2. They've been very slow with contracting and getting consultants under contract. The other one's Fall Creek, which we're in the midst of doing interviews for the consultant selection for that one. The 6 Mile Creek one is a little further ahead though, so it'll be a good opportunity to see what we're going to get out of that analysis. So yeah, we're going to be working on preventing sediment-related issues in 6 Mile Creek and the City of Ithaca drinking water supply, and looking for places and ways to store and slow stormwater in the upper reaches of the watershed so that you can reduce flooding downstream.
I have a question. I'm not familiar with where the jurisdiction lies. Can you explain who oversees those watersheds and who has the authority to, for example, dredge or monitor and all of that? Are we just more of the planning role, or?
It's whatever geography the watershed lies in. So 6 Mile Creek, for instance, is largely the City of Ithaca and the town of Caroline. So it would be, they are on the steering committee for that assessment, so we can look at that together. Fall Creek is Dryden and the city, I think.
But the county would not be the ones actually funding or executing these sorts of repairs or maintenance?
Unlikely, unless we find that there is county land in a location that would be beneficial to create a retention pond or something like that. Then it could be a county project.
Okay, but
We'd look at
generally
that,
not
yeah.
for these areas?
No, it's generally with partners. I mean, Finger Lakes Land Trust owns a ton of land to protect the watershed in 6 Mile Creek, for instance. And we work closely with Soil and Water Conservation District. They have a lot of federal funding that they tap into to help landowners who can, put some kind of measure in place to protect their land and the watershed as well.
My understanding is as the sediment builds up in these waterways, obviously it affects the drinking water, but eventually it also affects the lake.
Yes.
Right, and so it's all connected, right? It's not like when it stops here in this, geographic boundary, it doesn't have implications for others. So I'm curious if there's being sort of a holistic approach being taken to looking at the impacts of that sediment buildup on the drinking water, on the wastewater, on the lake water quality. And
Yeah, and this is actually tied to the DSIP, whatever that stands for. I can't remember. It is the Drinking Water Protection Group. So yes, the funding is tied to source water and drinking water as a way of improving those sources.
thank you.
Yeah, and it is all, they do look holistically. That's why they're looking at an entire watershed and not just by municipality. And we'll get Darby in here to talk to you at some point, but it is a remnant of the old glaciers that we have a lot of sediment in our streams, and it's really nothing that we're necessarily doing wrong. It's just where we're at. We've got a lot of sediment that gets washed down every time that's historic, as well as we can make improvements, obviously, but we're dealing with a lot of stuff with that.
Mm-hmm. And Katie, does the Water Resources Council get involved in this planning and coordination, or not so much?
Well, Darby would keep them informed, but no, each one of these projects have their own steering committee based on the source water protection work that's been done to date. So Fall Creek is the drinking supply for Cornell as well, so yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I'm still on. Okay, the hazard mitigation plan update. We updated our State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services plan in 2021. This is a plan that looks at all the natural hazards that our community might be facing and comes up with ways that we could potentially mitigate the risks involved with those hazards. You're required to do them every 5 years to position the county to be able to receive funding in case there is an actual disaster, as well as funding to mitigate disasters. So we do these every 5 years, and we have for a very long time. We've been trying to get the funding award for over a year now, and they just FEMA has not been approving these, and now FEMA's closed down. So it's something that we're working on closely. It's a national issue. Darby and Abigail have been attending webinars, like I said, at the national level on how we deal with this. There are different strategies that we're trying. Reducing the award request amount to under 100,000 was seen as a great way to try to work it out, because those have been approved, but I was just on a call recently where someone said they tried that and it didn't work. So it's putting many of our communities in pretty bad position in case there is a disaster. So we're working with it, we're trying to figure it out, but it's not something you can do very easily on your own without some funding to hire these specialized consultants who come in. But we're prepared if we do need to do that to try to work forward and do that.
I saw Judith and then Rachel.
When I saw this on the list, I was going to say, oh, I'm so excited because I really want to see this happen. Now I'm dismayed that it is so hard to get the funding. Obviously, we have some serious potential disasters that will eventually happen. Flooding, I think, is probably our most important one, but even just today, we're seeing what happens when we need to try to relocate just the people located in one building and how hard that is. And that makes me think, if we have a serious flood and we have to relocate a large population in the city of Ithaca someplace safe, possibly in worse weather, it's going to be a very, very serious challenge. So I hope even if we don't get the funding that we can put some thought into just some of the things that we're seeing now as we're trying to work through these problems and what that might look like if we have another situation like this or possibly one that's worse.
Yeah, Rachel.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about what we might do if we don't get any of the funding. And then I was also curious how this ties into the comprehensive emergency plan for the county. I know that they are, have, and I know that they might be coming at a disaster from slightly different sides, but it seems like the hazard mitigation plan probably helps us understand which hazards are most likely to happen in any given municipality, which then might inform the plan we'd want to have in place to deal with those.
To your first question, apparently the state has put quite a bit of effort into creating a online resource that wasn't available in the past that would help municipalities do some level of the analysis on our own now. It's kind of in beta version, but I think, we're good through the end of the year. If push comes to shove, we could try to use that online resource and do the plan in-house and see how we do. I'm hoping that won't be the case because I think it'll be difficult. But yes, it's not easy. And then what was the second part of your question?
I know that the county is working on the comprehensive emergency plan or at Dewar, so I was curious how these plans tie into it.
So we are a little bit involved in that plan at Dewar. They are very deeply involved when we do the hazard mitigation plan update. It is a fine line between the different plans. The mitigation plan is supposed to be looking further out and what you can do to prevent as many negative impacts as possible from a disaster event. And they are looking at more short-term, like the disaster event happens, where do the people go, what, some of those logistics of figuring it out in the immediate term.
That makes sense. And I was just curious if some of that was, if you have a municipality where we know a flood is more likely versus a different kind of, that would inform the short-term response. And so how those two work together.
One thing that Abigail does in our office is she convenes the hazard mitigation partners monthly or every other month, I think. And so over the past few years, that group is really working well together, and sometimes the Dewar staff attend that as well. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. Okay, ag conservation easements and riparian protection agreements. This is just to highlight for the committee that a lot of our work right now, at least around agriculture, is maintaining these conservation easements that we hold for the county. We hold easements on over 2,000 acres of prime farmland. So there are, I think, four farms in total. And that was something that we participated in the State Farmland Implementation Grant, FPIG Awards, to pay the farmer for the value of developing their land to keep it permanently in agriculture. So it's, Welling Cellars, the state provided the funding, and now we in perpetuity need to make sure that those easements are enforced and work closely with the farmer as they have different plans for their lands. Many by this point have subdivided the lands within the confines of the easement and worked with other farmers in the area. And we also have some riparian protection agreements. Again, trying to protect lands along creeks, and those are also in perpetuity. So we have to go visit the lands and talk to the landowners, and that's a lot of what we're doing. And then last year we had a pretty major, what's called a baseline update, where you go, it's either every 10 or 15 years, and you go and you go walk all around the edges of the farm to make sure that there aren't impingements on the lands that aren't in conformity with the conservation easement. And we need to do another one of those on a 450-acre farm in Lansing in 2026.
I hit Adam and then Judith.
How many farms are in this program?
That we own conservation easements on?
How many, how many landowners how many landowners have protection agreements?
It seems like that should be a straightforward answer, but like I said, over the years, the land's been subdivided, and so there are different owners associated with the farm. I would say for sure between 5 and 8 landowners in total. I can get you the exact number if you need to know that, though, too.
Thank you.
Okay, Judith?
Just wanted to share that last week I had a meeting with Andy Zepp, who is the head of the Finger Lakes Land Trust, which was fascinating, and he actually lives in my district. One of the things I learned from him is that when land goes into a conservation easement, at least with the land trust, that the landowner then receives a 25% tax abatement on the land, and that tax abatement actually comes in the form of a check from the state, so it doesn't impact our own tax revenues, but it's a state-funded program that provides money for the people who opt into this easement system, and it sticks with the land. So if they sell the land, then whoever buys it gets that continued money from the state to honor the value of the conservation easement. Is that true also for these kinds of conservation easements for agriculture, or is it just for the land trust?
You know, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I can look into it and get back to you.
It seems like a real value to the landowners and sort of a reason for them to want to make sure they're still in compliance, that check that's coming in.
Okay, any other questions? Iris?
Going back to number 1 on your agenda, I was curious about the greenhouse gas emissions inventory. There's a line about highlighting the ways the county could use carbon offsets to reduce county emissions. I'm curious what we're looking at there and why we're looking at offsets rather than actual reductions in emissions or other ways to remove carbon, or are we doing both?
Yeah, I think it's looking at all of the above, including counting county forest lands and, recapture of carbon on our forest lands. Yeah, but that's an analysis of its own, but it's looking broadly. It's not just at a carbon market where you would purchase it or something like
Rex or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, because I do think it's important for us to start looking at removal and, actually reducing how much we use, and are we planting more forests? Are we doing, more rather than just writing off what's already there?
Yeah, and actually that's part of the existing energy strategy, is that we'll get to net zero, and by net zero you need to do some kind of carbon offset or capture or something like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Norma, did you have something?
It's not a question for planning, so you'll be happy to know. Except to say that one of the other things that's not on their list is planning is directly involved in helping county administration develop a 20-year capital plan, which is not a small job. So we really appreciate the fact that Katie and team are working with us on putting that together. But I forgot that I did want to ask, last year a resolution was passed even though recycling waste management is no longer part of this committee, I think this task probably is. There was a resolution that was passed to establish an interdepartmental working group to ascertain and monitor through surveys and leveraging current regulations the volumes of biosolids generated by publicly owned treatment works. So the Recycling Waste Management has identified all of the agencies and departments, so that while we figured out the interdepartmental working group, I'm wondering through this committee if maybe 1 or 2 of you would like to be able to participate in this conversation. And if so, you could let me know who that might be. You don't have to do that today, but maybe just send me a couple of names if somebody has time to work on that.
Thanks, Norma, that'd be great. And would it be something that I know EMC has been very interested in biosolids? Is it something they could participate in as well?
Likely, yeah. We were. That was something that when I talked to the folks at recycling, we were going to start with the group from Soil and Water and Environmental Health the Environmental Health Department and Planning, but we also were going to talk about who else might be.
Okay, great.
So yeah.
And I just want to point out, I mean, this is an incredible work plan. It's ambitious, and it's just, I mean, it's a lot. And to hear, you know, in May and June that there's going to be stuff coming forward is both exciting and impressive, and like, wow. It's a lot. But I want to point out to everybody here too that this is just a part of the work that your department does. So I know you're involved also in housing and housing strategy, and honestly, I forget what some of the other areas are, but there's going to be work plans for all of these other sections of what you do as well, yeah?
Yeah, and for this committee, this is just a short list of the high points there.
Yeah.
Each person who supports this committee has a lot of other things we're working on as well, which you'll see coming through with action items for this committee.
County admin calls you pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say too, our department equity indicator, this kind of falls under housing and economic development, looking at the demographics of renter and homeowner housing cost burdens. I will say Iris found a great resource for us yesterday to also try to look at energy and transportation cost burden associated with housing. I thought it was interesting. I looked it up later. Iris, the National Renewable Energy Lab in December got their title changed. They are now National Lab of the Rockies. So yes, we'll be using their resources to look at the cost burdens for that too.
Great. Good. Thanks. Anything else for Katie or Megan?
Just wanted to say I appreciate that. I think it's going to be really meaningful to have the energy burden baked into sort of the way we're looking at affordability for people, especially as we see it going. And I know the data set stops at 2020 and a lot of the energy increases have, but maybe there will be some way to update it once we get more data too. But thank you for being open to it. Appreciate it.
Okay, so also listed under planning and sustainability is the other resolution that we have with a bunch of bills that are being recommended to support. This resolution came out of the case, the Climate and Sustainable Energy Advisory Board. And so I'd like us, if we can, if somebody's willing to move resolution ID number 13917. It's a resolution to support New York State budget and legislative proposals to address affordability and climate change through investments that improve public health and lower costs for New Yorkers. Is there anybody who will move that? Adam, thanks. Mover, and is there a second? Iris, great, thank you. So if we can move to this set of bills, you know, we have the same sort of timeline constraints that there are some of these that apply to what's happening in the budget, and then others that would be relevant to the other bills that we want to see passed after the budget gets passed. So same timeline of getting all of this in March. And I'll just add as background that the environmental groups, and I guess I should say also that this too, the content of this resolution was written up by case members and discussed and voted there. A lot of the initiatives that they're supporting were also initiatives that are being supported by a broad swath of environmental organizations across the state. So they're not just pulling these out of their hat. And so, and one more piece of context is that there's been quite a lot of frustration among environmentalists for the governor's, I don't want to say lack of support for environmental programs, but certainly not very strong support. And so in particular, she, a few years ago, tried to change the way our climate law was written to account for methane emissions and their global warming impact differently than what the science shows is the way to count the impact of methane. And it seems as though she's looking to do that again. So people are very, very upset because it really waters down the kind of efforts that we would be pursuing in this state. And I think the resolution itself identifies some of the other things that have happened that are of great concern to people who are concerned about both energy costs and the continued and expanding use of gas at a time when the science is saying that we really need to be scaling back. So that's context for this resolution. And similar to the last, I just want to make sure I don't make the same mistake. It looks like there is only one resolved section that lists a bunch of bills, and I'll go through these again briefly to give an overview. Cap and invest. Oh, Judith has a question?
And more of a structural question. Can we do the same thing for this resolution as for the other one? Because I feel like there's a lot of charged language in it. It talks about our governor failing to do things. It brings up issues that are not relevant to what's happening right now, like the greenhouse gas emissions targets. These are things that I think we need to iron out in the language if we're going to move forward on this, and I don't know that we have time to do that right now. I'm also a little, it's under planning and sustainability. Is it being brought, I know it's being brought forward by case, but when it's under planning and sustainability, does that mean that they're involved? Or is it not, are they not involved?
They were not involved.
Okay, so I'm just a little confused by that process, because I feel like if it's being under that department, I don't know.
I think that
how to
confusion goes.
I am deeply confused by this as well. And maybe, I don't know if Katrina's in there, but she consulted the county attorney who advised that I guess we have two different kinds of advisory boards in the county. One group that is supported by our staff supports case through having an administrative assistant take minutes for them and send out their agendas. So that's considered under the planning department. And there are other advisory boards that are mandated by the state, and so that's different, and so they have their own title. Am I getting that right, Katrina?
I kind of came in halfway through, but there are other advisory boards that the mandated advisory boards are handled a little bit different. Case was developed by the county for the county, and administrative support is provided through the planning department.
I personally would love to have some way of maybe it should say case in the title of the resolution, or I don't know. Because no, we had nothing, our staff didn't do anything developing it. I don't know that we would support it or not support. It's something that's coming from your advisory board to you for your consideration.
Yeah, Rachel?
Could it have gone to our committee, and then if a member wanted to bring it on as a member filed, does that work that way?
The mechanism to get it to committee usually comes from department or an individual member filed. There's the two, just like going to the legislature usually comes from a committee or a member file.
I guess I think some of my concerns are the same as Judith. It's not that I'm opposed to the purpose of this, but I wonder, in what way can we see these and kind of make substantial edits before they come here? I mean, if it didn't actually go to planning and it came straight from an advisory board.
Right, and it came from an advisory board that met on Tuesday and passed it, and everything was due to Taylor and Katrina to put the agenda together on Thursday.
And they are looking at changing the date of their meeting because it's too tight for this committee.
Good to know, thanks. So, yeah, and I think it's an unusual situation that we have so much of a time crunch to get these kind of resolutions passed. It's not typical that we will have, I think next month we'll have one that I'm aware of that relates to legislation as well. But beyond that, I at least I don't remember. The legislative session only runs through the end of May into early June, so this is sort of a different kind of circumstance. I don't know that there will be this kind of situation arising that often. But I hear you, and I'd suggest that maybe we take discussion of process and how we do things offline and not have it be part of this meeting's discussion.
Sure.
And so I hear you guys that you're again interested in reworking the resolution. I don't stand in the way of that. I would like to finish introducing it, and to at least inform whoever's listening out in Zoom land and even some people here what the importance of the bills that they're suggesting support, and then we can similarly look to withdraw this and have some editing if that's what the group desires. I won't stand in the way of that, but I would like to finish describing the importance of the legislation that the bill is supporting. So Cap and Invest is the first bill that they're encouraging support. And this is something that was written up as part of the climate action plan for the state. There was some initial work to figure out how to do it. It creates a revenue stream from polluters to help pay to offset upgrading to the renewable future that we need, and the governor's office has stalled the pursuit of Cap and Invest program. There's been an order from the Supreme Court, which I want to clarify. In New York State, the Supreme Court is the lowest level court, not the highest level court. But there has been an order to require movement forward on this, and it's being appealed and stalled in the meantime. Similarly, there's been a bill that was passed a few years ago called the Build Public Renewables Act, which would allow the New York State's Power Authority, which is a publicly owned entity, to build renewables where there was determined to be a need and not enough private investment to make it happen. And again, that has not received the green light, even though the bill has passed into law. The Stop Climate Polluters Handout Acts would return, and so this has not ever passed. This has been on the books for a few years now. There are about almost $2 billion in tax breaks that New York State gives to the fossil fuel industry right now. And this bill very modestly looks to recoup $350 million of that almost $2 billion to no longer provide those tax breaks and instead use that money to correct some of the harms that the industry has caused. The Sustainable Futures Fund is part of the governor's budget, or it has been in previous years. It's not part of her budget this year, but to provide funding into that to help provide, again, lower income customers and households to afford the energy upgrades. The Green Affordable Pre-Electrification, or GAP Fund, is something that did have some funding previously from the Sustainable Futures Fund that was previously funded, but not in the governor's budget this time around. And it helps to again, take the buildings that are older, lower income, that maybe have some significant repairs that are needed before you could even tighten up, the air seal it and electrify, that there's other work that needs to be done, roofs that need to be fixed, or windows that are broken and need to be repaired. And so this gap funding helps to support those improvements. And then last, there's a bill that our own Anna Kellis has introduced to create a moratorium on data center siting and permitting, during which time the DEC would be ordered to assess the full environmental impacts and how to mitigate them. And that's not on an individual data center, but statewide, what are the cumulative impacts? And then also instructs the Public Service Commission to develop regulations to ensure that these large energy users are responsible for paying for the upgrades to the grid and other impacts, so that ratepayers aren't picking up the bill for the increased energy use that's needed by the data centers. So those are the bills that are recommended to be supported by CASE, and I wonder if there's any questions or discussions about those bills or any reluctance to support them. Iris?
I have a question about Judith's concerns about this as written, just wanting to defer to the expertise of our committee, and or the advisory board, sorry, and the fact that we do have a member of our committee assigned to that board, so it's not like this was created in a vacuum.
I'll just clarify that on that one point. I'm the liaison to the CASE board, but I'm a liaison, not a voting member, so basically I report back and forth, and I don't weigh in on their discussions or decisions.
Okay, that's useful, but you were there, I suppose, but they could come up with something that maybe you don't agree with, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Either way.
I mean, they're here to advise.
I guess I'm curious what language is like too charged to go forward with it. Is it simply using the governor's name? Like, would it be helpful if we just cut out the governor's name? Because otherwise I feel like it's mostly it's just stating facts of what was, what the law is, how it has not been complied with, and why we should continue to seek compliance.
Okay, Rachel.
My guess is that some of it, it's not so much that it's like too, maybe charged is the wrong word, but there's just, it feels like it could use some editing so that it was stated a little more clearly, because I feel like if you're going to say that there's a explosion of data center development, and in another spot it says something is extremely expensive, like just use the numbers that you're referencing. Like, have there been 4 data centers, or have there been 100 data centers? And so it doesn't feel clean in that sense. And so I would hope that some of that editing happens. Something even like the CLCPA is not a suggestion, it's the law, legal mandate. You can just take out the not a suggestion, it is the law. Just say the CLCPA is a legal mandate to rapidly cut. Just so when I read this, I found that to be a little frustrating. Again, there's some like minor edits, like there's too many ands in some sentences, just things that should have been read and edited a little more cleanly. Some of the formatting is different, and in the resolve section for some of the points, not others. Sometimes legislation is referenced specifically, and other times it's not. With the number. Yeah,
and that's because not all in the budget proposals things don't have numbers in that way.
Okay,
and some of it is carried by legislators, and others it isn't.
Okay. What do you mean? So yeah, there's one bullet point that just, if you read it, it doesn't really make sense. It would be good to maybe break it into 2 sentences or something. It's just, I don't know, things like that. Like, it doesn't feel fully baked.
Okay. Iris?
I guess a question then, what is the process usually if this committee doesn't feel that the resolutions are drafted up to our standards? Do we usually kick it back to them?
Again, if time were permitting, we might do that. In this situation, again, it was a very fast turnaround from their committee to getting it into the agenda packet. And I think we can do just as we did with the other resolution. We can, if the movers are willing, withdraw it and have people work on polishing it up to where people are satisfied with it.
I wonder too, and this may be an offline thing, although it sounds like it might be something that would involve more than 3 of us. We want to come up with a set of sort of guidelines for drafting resolutions. Like, for example, instead of using hyperbolic language, like please use numbers or please use facts. And like, if there's certain sort of basic tenets that we're going to be asking folks to do, otherwise we're going to, have to revise it on our own or kick it back to them. That might be helpful for us to come up with that. And then that
and it might be something for Geo to take up if it's going to apply beyond this committee. We can talk about all of that.
Yeah, it's just another thought, because it seems like we might be up in this situation every time there's a resolution that we didn't personally write, and then we're just going to be in this very slow process. So if there's ways that we can follow that, my concern about us taking it offline, making revisions and bringing it as a member filed resolution for the whole legislature before this committee has had a chance to vote on it is that it may not bear the same weight as if this committee can say that we, endorsed this and this is our recommendation going to the full legislature. So that's my hesitation.
Okay, thanks. Judith?
I've had the same thoughts. I think it's important for our advisory boards to try to give us enough time so that they can participate in these kinds of editing processes and hear our feedback. And I know now there isn't enough time, but I hope that we don't see a lot of these very short turnaround kind of situations, because I don't think it's good for any of us. It's not good for them. It's not good for the resolution. I would not vote to pass this as it currently is written. And maybe that's a message that our advisory boards need to hear, is that if they're going to write something, it needs to reflect not just what the advisory board thinks, but what they think will be able to pass. And those might be different things. And I know that can be frustrating for people. Did you have a comment that maybe is worth interjecting it right now?
I just want to remind everybody, I don't know if you were aware, but the case board has met like the first part of the month, and in the previous year, peak met later in the month. So I think that's kind of, it's just that the committee schedule is new, so we're not getting that lead time and everything. So I just wanted to point that out. Yeah. And I think Katie said that case is looking to like readjust their meeting time, so.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. I want to be able to rely on these things that are coming out of our working groups, because it's very important that we have them, and it's important that they're doing this research and providing us with these things. Like it's time that they're spending that, they're not getting paid for it. So I really appreciate that. And I think it's challenging for all of us to be in the situation where like we have this, but it doesn't feel like we can move it forward. I feel like I can't move it forward in its current state. You said early, Irene, that people are frustrated. And I think what I'm hearing, I hear the frustration in the resolution. Like it feels like the people writing it are very frustrated. Mm-hmm. And that's not a message that I want, that's not how I wanted to come across. Right? I wanted to come across as objective. And when it's objective, then it's like, and these conclusions are objective and they are the right thing to do, as opposed to they're coming out of an emotional state. Right, so I think if the emotional state is removed from the resolution, then it is an easier and stronger message to the state.
Okay, so any other discussion on this? Adam, John, not to put you on the spot, I just hadn't heard from you and didn't know if you had thoughts.
Not on this one.
I couldn't hear you.
I guess just that I agree with Judith on this.
Okay. All right, so In the previous resolution, there was people who were the mover and seconder offered to withdraw it. Do we have that kind of offer forthcoming?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw.
So, and you were the mover, yeah?
Okay.
And Iris seconded? Okay, so, all right. So unless there's any further discussion, we'll consider this withdrawn as well. And same deal, we'll put it up in SharePoint and invite folks to come in and edit. And to the concern that was raised about it not having the same sort of force and effect at the full legislature meeting, I would like to think that members of Peak could speak to that at the legislature meeting when it gets brought to the floor. That, I'd certainly be willing as chair of Peak to say that, our members wanted to polish up the resolutions further, and that's why they're coming as member filed as opposed to through the committee. And I would like to be able to say, and I haven't heard this specifically from you, that there's also support for the legislation that's being recommended. I know that Judith, you had expressed concern that you wanted to research the legislation a bit further before you could do that on the other. Is that similar your feeling here?
Yeah, I don't think I can vote for something where I don't understand what the resolution.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to vote. I just want to understand.
So I will need to look very carefully at what's being recommended in order to feel like I can support it.
Okay. And so then I guess I would, when it comes to the legislature meeting where we bring these both back, I would hope that people would speak to not only that we wanted to polish up the editing, but also your support of the bills that are in there and the support of the resolution.
I just want to say, it's a big lift, right, to make all these changes over the course of the next 4 days, right? So I feel like it is a lot that we're going to have to be doing, and so that is something I hope doesn't happen very often.
I hear you. Okay. Katie?
Actually, Megan just had a great idea. What we do in our department frequently with resolutions is we'll prepare a memo using a standard memo template of, the action, the background, the funding implications. That might be a way to help give some of the nuance of a resolution by having a memo accompany the resolution, so you don't have to have everything in the whereases explaining things. That's what we often do and could be a solution.
Great, thanks. All right, so both resolutions have been withdrawn for polishing up. Moving on now to reports from advisory boards, and Crystal, I see you're here. Why don't you come on up and take a seat at the table? We have two resolutions from the Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board. And Crystal, take a minute to introduce yourself and tell the committee what your advisory board does, because we're all new here, and it would be nice to know that.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me up. My name is Crystal Buck. I'm a farmland protection educator at Cooperative Extension, and I serve as staff support to the county's Ag and Farmland Protection Board. One of the key roles that board is responsible for is Ag District Review. And we are currently just ending the open enrollment period for the Ag District that happens every year. The districts are reviewed. There's 2 agricultural districts. They are reviewed every 8 years. And then annually, there's the opportunity for landowners to request inclusion of predominantly agricultural land into the district. So that period of time is February 1st to March 2nd. We received a request from 4 property owners for the inclusion of 6 parcels of land. Right now, there's the only action that is needed by this committee and the legislature is to schedule the public hearing, which won't happen until May. And then the next step in the process is this goes to the Ag and Farmland Protection Board to review and provide recommendation. And then the public hearing is scheduled, followed by action by the legislature for either acceptance or rejection of those parcels for inclusion.
Great. And can you just speak briefly to what is an ag district and why should we care?
Yeah, sure. So the agricultural districts, it's based on New York state law that it's an effort to try and protect and promote agriculture in key areas in a county. So it's administered by the county following the state's ag district law. It provides for a number of benefits to farmers, to commercial farmers within the districts. That includes a protection from nuisance suits. So the idea there would be that, you know, farms are just inherently noisy and sometimes smelly, and that by designating areas within the county as predominantly agricultural, it's acknowledging that that type of activity is going to take place, and any residential uses need to kind of be aware of that agricultural activity, the nature of the agricultural activity. It also protects active commercial operations from unreasonably restrictive local regulations. So that can come into play, for example, if there's a restriction on the size of a barn. The ag district law says that, you know, if you have an active commercial operation, they need to be able to function as a working farm, and that includes being able to build associated infrastructure for their farms, regardless of the underlying municipal regulations, that the municipal regulations need to be supportive of that. So those are kind of the key ones. There's some other smaller pieces of the state legislation that come into play, in particular around solar development. It requires a notice of intent process for any project that uses public funding within an agricultural district. So that's usually what we're seeing is a solar project that's receiving NYSERDA funding. It then goes through a review process that's required by ag district law that kind of helps provide consideration for the continuation of agriculture in those districts.
Great, thanks. Iris?
Thanks, this is new to me, so I have a couple of questions. Are there any tax implications for reclassifying these properties?
There are not tax implications in most cases. So there's an agricultural assessment that is provided to qualifying farms regardless of whether they are in an ag district or not. So to be qualifying, it needs to be $10,000 in gross farm sales for parcels that are 7 acres or greater, or $50,000 in gross agricultural sales if it's less than 7 acres. But that applies regardless of whether you're in an ag district or not. There is a small piece of it where if there's an extension of a benefit assessment district, like a sewer and water district, those new taxes, if the parcel is within an ag district, is only charged based on 1 acre of residential rather than based on the entire farm acreage.
And the other question I had was regarding like the nuisance suits. Do you know about these lands, whether they are sited currently near residential neighborhoods?
Yeah, that's the next step in the process. So March 2nd was the last day when we could receive those requests for inclusion. And then there's 30 days for the Ag and Farmland Protection Board to review and provide recommendation. So they will have a report from CCE drafted that they'll review at their next meeting on March 25th. That will then be forwarded to Peak for review as part of the process. Yeah, so this step right now is just scheduling the public hearing.
So it's possible that the report will say, 3 out of these 4 we recommend, but 1 we do not, or something.
Right, exactly.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Judith?
What kind of effort is made to reach out to the people who live in these communities to let them know about the public hearing? Because I've previously tried to find public hearing notices even when I knew that they existed, and I found it quite challenging.
Yeah, so the public hearing the notification goes through the standard channels that the clerk's office does, the county clerk's office, including for ag district law, it's required that we provide a copy of the public notice to the town clerk. So that's kind of the distribution of that information about the public hearing. But then we also, as part of my work that I do to prepare the report for the Ag and Farmland Protection Board, I meet with planning boards and ag committees from each of the municipalities. So in this case, that's the town of Ithaca, the village of Freeville, and the town of Danby. So I will be meeting with those, and that will be included in the report.
Okay, thank you. I just want to note there's a missing E in the whereas on line 26.
Okay.
Line 26, there's an extra E, is that what you said?
A missing E.
Yeah, I see it there. We'll consider that a manifest error and take care of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so can I get somebody to move this resolution? Schedule a public hearing for the addition of predominantly viable agricultural land into Agriculture District Number 1 and Agriculture District Number 2 in Tompkins County. ID number 13920. Rachel moves, Judith seconds. Right. Is there any discussion on this resolution to schedule the public hearing? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous, done. Great. And then the next resolution concerns the amendments to the Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board's bylaws. A very grueling project to undertake because it's just one of those not very fun things that has to get done. So thanks, Crystal, for shepherding that through. The ID number is 13921. Is there anybody here willing to move? Adam moves, Rachel seconds. All right, and anything that you want to say about it, Crystal, or should we have any discussion?
Sure, I can just briefly say the issue that has been attempted to be resolved is that the New York Ag and Markets law dictates who serves on, or what the members are of the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. Those include ex officio members. In the county's policy, ex officio members are not allowed to vote. And so there is an inherent conflict between those two sets of regulations. This is an attempt to address that by shifting the ex officio members to be instead a representative from each county department and from the Soil and Water Conservation District. So the ex officio members, it used to be the director of County Planning and Sustainability, department head of assessment, and the chair of the Soil and Water Conservation District. And those are now shifted to be representatives of those departments. I will say that I know that Jay Franklin from County Assessment is not satisfied with the bylaws as they are currently written, but is comfortable, I think, moving forward with them such that we have a functioning board again. So you will probably be seeing this again.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Crystal on this? Judith?
Has this been reviewed by our county attorney?
It has, yes, in detail. This was his edits.
Any other questions? All right, we ready for a vote? All in favor? All right, Crystal, yay.
Thank you very much.
2 for 2. Thank you. Sorry that you're going to have to continue working on it, but thanks. All right, so now it's time for committee member reports. So I know that several of you at this point have been able to meet with your respective advisory committees or assignments, and would love to hear back from you on that and anything else that you want to bring forward. Oh, Crystal, I just remembered before you go, you've got an event coming up. You want to just briefly tell us about your event? I did forward it to the legislature.
Sure, yeah. Oh, can I speak here? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we have, every year we host a Tompkins County Ag Summit. Alternating years, it's either intended with the target audience of farmers or the target audience of municipal, county officials and staff. This year is for farmers. You are, of course, welcome to come, encouraged to come so that you can hear from farmers and interact with them. The focus of this year's topic will be on farmland transition planning. We have a lot of aging farmers, and this will be an effort for both new generation farmers and the older generation of farmers to connect them together and have a bunch of different folks from throughout the state come and support them in that conversation. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And again, check your inboxes. I did forward the announcement, and there's a link to register if you're interested. Thanks, Crystal. All right, back to member reports. John.
Okay, I am on the County Soil and Water Conservation District Board, and we had a meeting on February 19th. Because the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee meets on the same third Thursday of the month, it was a little difficult for Randy and I to get over to Bostwick Road by 12:30, and so the meeting time has now been moved to 1 o'clock for the Soil and Water Conservation Board. So just wanted to mention that.
Great.
We also passed 14 resolutions. I'm not going to outline them all. But I do have a stack of them here if anybody ever wants to look at the full contents.
Okay. Are there any that you think are particularly of interest?
I'm going to give a few examples. They set the rates for services that they provide to the districts, like stormwater inspection for municipalities costs $62 an hour. And also, the municipalities involved were Ulysses, Caroline, Danby, Newfield, Lansing, Dryden, and so on. And they also do riparian buffer maintenance. That's $100 an hour, includes mowing, weeding, and planting. Then there was a memorandum of agreement with Tioga County Soil and Water Conservation District for engineering services. Tioga actually has a professional engineer that we take advantage of here in Tompkins County, who gets $150 an hour plus travel time and so on. And part of this is for a proposed bridge replacement on Bostwick Road. They also have a tech services contract with Enfield for the Bostwick Road culvert replacement and stream stabilization project. So those were the kinds of things that were resolved. And then there were just a couple of things. We also voted to approve money, $2,500 for outreach and education money for partial funding of the 2026 Open Farm Days, which is happening on August 9th of this year. And there's also something called the Field Days at Rodman Farms, which I believe is in Seneca Falls, that's happening on August 7th, and $2,000 was authorized for partial funding for that event.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. That was a nice report. Thanks, John. Adam, do you have a report? Have you?
Judith and I attended a
Can you speak into the mic? Thanks.
I honestly forgot I was going to be giving a report on this, but a few weeks ago, Judith and I attended DEC's Fish and Wildlife Management Board meeting for District 7. And no resolutions were passed, but we did get some presentations from DEC staff. They talked about some changes to the different hunting and fishing seasons. I forget what species of fish it was, but they've actually moved back one of the seasons 2 weeks to, I guess, deal with the effects of climate change on this fish's breeding season, which I thought was fascinating. The report we were given went into a lot more than just that. Went into a variety of different programs, including there's a lot of discussion on the pheasant hunting program that used to exist in this county and the programs that have replaced it. A lot of talk was done about education. I know there were other things that I think Judith might want to mention about this, so I'll leave it to her.
Thanks, that's very helpful. The meeting was February 18th. Our next meeting is April 15th. It was online. We did not have quorum, so we could not vote on anything. But I wanted to mention first, there are 2 open seats on this board from Tompkins County, one to represent sportsmen or sportswomen, and one to represent a landowner. The landowner would have to live on rural land, agricultural or forested, and be managing it in some way. And so I'm trying to figure out how we can make sure we get those 2 seats filled. They've been empty for some number of years. I was kind of inspired by some of the reports from other counties, which were talking about things that they do to reach out to the community. One county, I forget which one, they talked about a Women's Day to try to get women more involved in hunting and give them the opportunity to participate in some of these activities. And it's oversubscribed this year. It's growing very quickly in interest. There was maybe the same county does some sort of summer program for children, which I thought was fantastic.
Madison County? I think it was Madison.
Maybe so. And then one person mentioned that I think it's in Onondaga County, they're very pleased because the legislature has shifted in political orientation, and associated with that, they've changed the rules about what kinds of hunting seasons are allowed. I think it's some sort of, I want to say, it's like old kinds of gun season now is allowed. I should have written it down. Maybe it was a musket or something like that.
Yeah, muzzle loader.
A muzzle loader, thank you. And previously, Onondaga County had a Republican-dominated legislature, now has a Democratic-dominated legislature for the first time, and I'd like to see that kind of connection where people are listening to what is wanted by the members of the community. The next, like I said, then we have the 2 open seats. Next meeting is March 23rd. Often these meetings are held actually in Cortland County, so it'll be interesting to see people in person. I'm also on the Water Resources Council, so I can report about that while I'm here. It was online. It was a pretty short meeting, but people voted in new officers for the council. There was a discussion of the committee goals and the water quality strategy, and a little discussion of comments that were made regarding the water permit at the Cayuga Operating Company, and how different members of the community, including this legislature, have made some comments regarding that permit.
Great, thanks. Iris, did you have it? Oh, that's right, you don't have it. Yeah, got too many others. Rachel, do you want to give a report?
I don't have much to add from the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. We discussed the resolutions that we've already discussed. Crystal told everyone about the Ag Summit. Our next meeting will be the morning of the Ag Summit at the Ag Summit.
Great. Great, and I attended, so partly to what Chris was talking about, Rachel is a voting member on the Ag and Farmland Committee. I'm a liaison, so I don't get the vote, but I still go and listen and learn. And it was a really interesting group, so I appreciate being part of it. And the other committee that I can report on is as the liaison to the case board. And you pretty much heard what happened there. We voted in, or they voted in several new advisory board members, so there had been a search, and actually I thought there were pretty interesting people that have applied, so I'm pleased for that. And then there was considerable discussion about the resolution that we considered today, and there was also conversation from Terry Carroll from the Planning Department, and part of what he spoke about is something that Katie mentioned today in the work plan, which is the greenhouse gas inventory. So he was getting some feedback from the committee on plans for doing that. So that's my committee report. Are there any other comments or thoughts or things people want to bring up for the good of the meeting, good of the public? All right, well, with that, if there's nothing else, and somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? Iris and Judith seconds and Rachel thirds and all in favor. Great. Thank you all. I'd like to ask if you can to stick around for a couple of minutes so we can talk about process stuff. So I'll wait till we're offline. Hi, Chris. Thank you. And thank you, Taylor.